Okay, change of plans. We're here, Baruch Hashem. So we can continue Tanya Shir, Baruch Hashem. All right, Perek Lamed Daled. As we're about to finish a big sugya now, something that we've been discussing all the way from Chavov. But upon him, now that we've been discussing and hopefully we've internalized a bit more of how to have simcha, which is all what he's been discussing for the last few prokim, and to understand and really recognize that the Rabbeinu Shalom is the only koyach in the ganze Welt, and how to be able to get rid of the gaiva, we've been speaking about as well, and how to recognize that how the Rabbeinu Shalom resides in ourselves, and to make ourselves that kli, that utensil that allows the Shekhinah to rest in us, which ultimately brings a person the emes simcha of Avodas Hashem. So let's begin Perek Lamed Daled, and with that, Beis Hashem, we'll finish off a very, very important sugya that we started in Chavov to Lamed Daled. V'hinei, Mudah Zoi Sha'avos Hein Heinem Arkava. If you remember, we discussed this previously, that our Avos, right, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, are considered to be what we call Merkava, which is like the vehicle, the chariot. Shekol Yameim La'olam La'ivsiku Afidu Sha'achas, Menekasha Daitom Menishmosam L'Riboin, which means that when it comes to the Avos, so since we know that what is Yiddishkeit? Yiddishkeit Be'etzem is this idea that a person is developed in his mind this idea that there's only Rabbeinu Shalom and he wants to be medabik to that Shekhinah. So the Avos of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were able to achieve this. They were the only ones that for their entire lifetime they never stopped. Even for a moment, they never had any interruption from being mekasher, tying, connecting their das and their neshama to the Rabbeinu Shalom with the utmost bittul. They were mevatel themselves completely for the Rabbeinu Shalom, and because of that, they are considered to be our foundation of Yiddishkeit. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are the founders of all the Yiddishkeit of our faith. And after, of course, them, you've got the Nevi'im, each one, of course, according to the Madrega of his neshama and his comprehension, or Madrega Moshe Rabbeinu, Olav Shalom here, Oilal Kulana, that's even greater. Sha'omer Olav. The Zohar Kodesh talks about Moshe Rabbeinu, and when he discusses Moshe Rabbeinu, says Shechina medaberes mitoich groina shel Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu was such a high level. It wasn't just that his consciousness, that his understanding, his intellect understood and connected with the Shechina, but it was even greater that the Zohar Kodesh says that the Shechina was Kaviyachol speaking from the mouth, from the throat of Moshe Rabbeinu. So that's even higher madrega. Ume'ein zeh zocher Yisrael b'mayim Sinai, and Be'etzem Klal Yisrael in some small tiny way were also zocher to have this type of nevuah. Rak shelo yochel lisba, but they weren't able to cope with it. They weren't ready for it. They weren't really ready to have that state of mind, which is why obviously they got taken away, and they're according to Chazal and Midrashim, they died, and then the Rabban Shem had to do Tches HaMeisim on them. K'may Rabbi Zenu Zad the Gemara Peches Shal Kol Dibo Paruch HaNishmas. The Gemara tells us, as I just quoted you as well, every single time the Rabban Shem Kaviyachol opened his mouth to say one of the Zeres HaLibros altogether, then the Shem of Klal Yisrael sort of just left because he just couldn't cope with that. So Klal Yisrael at Har Sinai kind of got this idea of Nevuah, this prophecy, but it didn't actually go anywhere because they weren't able to cope with it. Shu Inyan Bittul B'Metzias Anal. All of this really comes from Bittul. And of course, Moshe Rabbeinu was the highest, and of course we got Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. The union of Bittul means that you have nothing of yourself, and it's purely the Rabbeinu Shalom. It's only Das Hashem. And you've mevatel yourself to do, like the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, to do the Das of the Rabbeinu Shalom, and you be able to channel your brain, your intellect, your understanding, to recognize that there is only Rabbeinu Shalom, and I'm just over here as a puppet in this world. V'lachein, miyad omelem las le mishkan. Straight away, the Rabbeinu Shalom said, make yourself a mishkan. Oh boy, Kodshe Kadoshim Lashra Shchinasai. Make a Kodshe Kadoshim that the Shekhinah should be able to reside in it. Shugilu Yehuda Yisbar Kamoshes Barakamon. As we're going to see later on Perek and Gimel, we talk about that over there. It's basically the last Perek of the whole thing, which we'll get there, Beis Hashem, I don't know when. Beis HaMikdash. So that was then, and that's when there was the Beis HaMikdash, and that was the Kodesh Kadoshim, in order that there should be Ashras HaShechina. But now, Tanya, well, we don't have a Kodesh Kadoshim, and we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. So Be'etzem, it means that we don't have a Mokem Ashras HaShechina, Beis HaMikdash. Where's the Rabbeinu Shalom residing? Where do we find Hashem? How can we get as close as we can to the Rabbeinu Shalom? Ein LaKadosh Baruch Hu, Gemara Brachos clearly tells us this. Ein LaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai mishkan u'mochain l'shivtoi hu yichuda yisbarach. There's no kind of mokaim, address, place that the Rabban Shalom found, ela, except arba amois shel halacha. except the Arba Amash Halacha, Shubitsoyna Yisbar B'chachmasa and Meluboshim Behulchos Haruchos Lefanenu. That means we have to understand what halacha is. Halacha is not just a simple way of how to live into this world, which it is also, right? The Rebbeinu Shalom created the world and created the best way of living in this world. In other words, just like when you open up a new machine and it has instructions, this is the way to use this machine in the best possible way that will go and give you the best results. You want to live in this world and have the best results, there's a Torah, there's mitzvahs, there's halachas of how to live in this world and have the best results. But it's not just that. So about Tanya, it goes much deeper than that. What mitzvahs are, when you learn, for example, you guys are learning Masechta Sukkah, right? So you learned all the halachas of Daled Minim. The intricate details of Daled Minim. How we know it's an esrog, how we know it's a lulav, the hadassim, how does it work, where it has to be mishulush, it has to be 3. What are we learning these things for? All of the mitzvahs in the Torah are basically expressions of what the Rebbeinu Shalom's rotzen is in the world. What he wants you to do and how he wants the world to live. So when you're learning the halachas, what you're really doing is you're actually understanding the expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's willingness, his rotzen, into this world. And that's why Zukta Balatanya, which again is a Gemara Brachos, the Rabbeinu Shalom is found in those halachas, in the Torah, in the mitzvahs, in the details of the mitzvahs, because you're not going to find the Rebbeinu Shalom in the Beis HaMikdash, because unfortunately we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. But you will find him in the halachas that you learn. So when you're learning halachas, you're not just learning how to daven, how to keep Shabbos, how to keep kashrus. All of those are important things, and you need to do that. Avada, Talmud Mevi L'Dei Ma'aseh, Gemara Din Kedushin Daf Mem. We have to learn how to live like a Yid Memeli. You have to learn a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, open up a Mishnah Berurah, open up a Shulchan Aruch, whatever it is. You have to know how to live, that for sure. But it goes much deeper. If you want to know what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants from you, learn the mitzvahs, learn the details of the mitzvahs. That's what the Baal HaTanya is telling you. If you want to find the Rebbeinu Shalom's address, that's where it is, exactly over there. Therefore, after a person learns to extinguish his own personal identity and learns to only have the identity of the Rebbeinu Shalom, this total awareness at all times, like the others were able to accomplish, but perhaps we can accomplish in a small amount of time on each day. We spoke about it previously by Krishma, by davening in these times, where a person will vatal himself purely to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Zois Yoshiv El Liboy. Ki miyos cotton sikli v'shorish shmosi ma'achil liyos mukava mishkan nechudai yisparach ve'emes la'amitai. That means at the end of the day, it's very, very hard, right? Our seichel, right, is so weak, it's so small, it's almost inadequate for a person to be consistently this chariot, right, this merkava that we talked about by the Yavais, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's oneness and total awareness of the Rebbeinu Shalom's oneness in the world. Ma'acha, why? After the less machshava, delay tfisa mastekes v'yisbar klal u'klal, shum hasaga ba'olam, v'lo shemetz b'onu b'asaga so'obes v'anaviyim. We don't have the asaga ba'avos. We're nowhere near. We're no shaykhs to that. So if we're no shaykhs to that, then we're never going to get to that level. We can't get to that understanding, that pure thought and awareness of the oneness of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Ilazais. Oh, so now that's the case. In a way that it is possible to make the Rebbeinu Shalom some kind of mishkan, some kind of mokoim to be able to reside. How do you do that? I can't be like the others. I haven't got that seichel. I haven't got the intellect. I can't do it. So the Baal HaTanya, who are asik b'talmud Torah k'fi apnai sheli b'kvias itim b'yoyim u'b'layla. That's how you do it. You k'vei itim l'Torah. You're sitting and learning. You are making yourself at that moment the address, the kli, the vessel to hold Asheras HaShechina, almost like the others were doing on a constant basis, but we could do it at small times. Specifically over here, he's telling us, B'kvias itim bayoim u'balayla. Right, it's not enough to learn during the day. Got to learn at night also. Talmud Torah as well. The halacha tells us in Hilchos Talmud Torah. Shulchan Aruch Harav brings it as well. How important it is Hilchos Talmud Torah Perek Gimel that there's a psukim and novi about it. It has to be day and night. V'yisa yoyimon v'layla. U'kabayim Rebbe Seinu Zal. Like the Gemara Menachos Tadites. Afilu Perek Echad Shachos v'chulei. Even if one perik, right over there, the pasuk in Yeshai, that even a lo shona eldom ela perik echad shachas perik arvis, kind the mitzvah lo yomush sefer Torah and picha. It's very, very important for a person. Even one pasuk in the morning, one pasuk in the evening. Efshah, this is something to think about. Bein manim. You guys are going to go back. I don't know when, but whenever you eventually get back, not that you ever want to leave Eretz Yisrael, but if you had to go somewhere else, so think about it. Open up a Mishnah, open up a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, open up a Mishnayos, open up whatever it is, and at least one pasuk in the morning, one pasuk in the evening, and you're yotze that. Your heart, you don't even recognize it, but your heart is dancing for joy when you do that. You are so excited and so happy that you became the host of the Rabbeinu Shalom. Can you imagine? You are hosting Hashem at this time. You open up a few psukim. Maybe we'll do more than one pasuk if you realize that you become the host for as long as you learn the pasuk. Maybe we'll sit for half an hour. You become a host for the Rabbeinu Shalom for half an hour. But that's what he's telling us. You have such a tremendous simcha. You give Haidar to Rabbeinu Shalom on your chelek because you had the ability at that moment to be the host of the Rabbeinu Shalom twice a day. You're basically making yourself like a Beis HaMikdash. Because he said in the beginning of the parak, like we had a Beis HaMikdash, that was the address was. Now we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, we can become that Beis HaMikdash by learning. Morning and evening, you become the address. Again, according to how much time you have, according to the situation. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you more, as I told you, right? If a person has more, more. Like they once came to Rabbi Sol Salanta, famous Maisa, and he said, Rebbe, I only have 20 minutes to learn. Should I learn Musa or should I learn Gemara? And he said, Avadi should learn Musa, because once you learn Musa, you'll realize they have much more than 20 minutes to learn. And you end up learning a lot more. So he's telling us, Avadi, if you can try to do more, Avadi, you should try to be more. But just recognize what you're doing at the time that you're sitting and learning, especially not when they say then you've got no Rebbeim around and it's not so simple. You're able to do that, you're becoming a vehicle, you're becoming a mini Beis HaMikdash that will allow the Shekhinah to reside within you. Gam, v'gam, shara yom kulei, sha'osim amasav matan. Oh, so what about the rest of the day when I'm working? I'm in the office, I'm in the factory, I'm in the warehouse, whatever it is I'm doing, right? So I'm on the computer. So I'm oisik b'masav matan. Yeah, mochoin l'shivtai. You can also be the resting place. Now this is the famous Tanya Shita, very tzedakah. If you look at the Geras HaKodesh Perek Yud, the Tanya is very into tzedakah as being basically the last mitzvah that we could do that has the highest madrega, because our Torah is not on the level that it should be, but tzedakah definitely is. So that's why he picks tzedakah. Out of all the mitzvahs, why is he picking tzedakah? Why is he not picking something else? Because this is the Tanya Shita when it comes to tzedakah. So he says, if you're not able to learn the whole day, and you're working, and you're in the office, and you're doing stuff, you can still be that resting place for the Shekhinah by giving tzedakah according to what you can. That's the midah of the Rebbeinu Shalom. That means just like the Rebbeinu Shalom has Rachmanis, you also have Rachmanis in that case. That means that if there's one mitzvah that brings you as close to what Torah does, it is giving tzedakah. Unbelievable thing, Rabbi. This would be a perfect time for me to make a pitch for a new building for Yeshiva, no? Okay, Moshe goes up to Tikunim, as I state in the Zoya, Chesed Deva Yemina, Rasha Inonosin El Chaybesh. Even if you're owning in Mechoibesh, Havi Chomish, that's 20%, by the way. Havi Chomish Mali Imoy Kola Arba Yodes La Hashem, Yes Mochen Shiftoi Yisbarach. Even though the mice you don't have to give 20%, you can give 10%. By giving a fifth, by giving 20%, you're bringing all the other parts of the Rebbeinu Shalom up. There we are. The mitzvah stocker is basically equal to all of the korbanos. And they become alive with one of the behemoths. Very busy with this right now, Shmuel, right? Oh, you just learned this today? Oh, you just got this. Come on, that's what's kocha podas. Echad bolul ba shemen over here. The kingdom of plants and everything was elevated because of 1/10 of the eighth of the flour that was used with it. This is his raya that with one thing you can raise everything up. So one stock you can raise everything up. Apart from this, which is also Perek Lamazayin. We'll speak about that hopefully maybe next week. We'll get to that. We'll talk about how a person also, B'shas HaTorah Tefillah, he can also raise up all of the other things. For example, he ate lunch. How does he turn lunch into being something Kodesh? That's through the lunch and the fuel that you put inside your physical body being used for Torah. So now the lunch that you ate retroactively, Lemafreya, becomes something which is holy. That we'll get to Perek Lamazayin. V'hinei. Let's finish it off, and this is something very important because again we're now concluding something that we've been going from Perek Chavov to Perek Lamed Dalet. The chelek of talking how to think about it, how to maintain the emotional maintenance of what we've been discussing, of getting rid of depression, getting rid of gaiva, humbling a person's spirit to overcome the tintum alev when a person does not feel geschmack in Yiddishkeit. This has been the key from Perek Lamed Vav to Perek Lamed Dalet, all the way of how to overcome this Timtum Alev and what leads to Emes Simcha. V'hinei, b'chol protei mini simchas and never shanal. Everything that we have been discussing until now, ein mehem meni aliyos nivze be'enav nimas v'lev nishba b'ruach nemucha b'shas simcha mamash ba'acha ki yosef nivze be'enav v'cholehu mitzad haguf v'nefesh ha'bahamis v'yosef b'simcha mitzad ha'nefesh. And a case for nitzis and of course canal in that case. In other words, since at the end of the day you have two neshamas, you have two souls that we've been speaking about all the time. You've got the nefesh of the kids, the nefesh of Bahamas in that case, and therefore it is possible for a person to have different feelings all at the same time because you've got two different neshamas, and those two neshamas can have different expressions of feelings at different times. And therefore, that basically means what he's telling us over here is that a person inside has that longing, has that simcha, has that kedusha. He has to peel it off. He has to get rid of all the gaiva. He has to get rid of the timtum alev. He has to get rid of all the other things by focusing on the Rabbeinu Shalom, focusing on the oneness, focusing on his opportunity to learn, his taka sitting and learning, and through that the person has emes simcha. Be'ezus Hashem Yisbarach will be starting Perek Lamed Hey, which is a brand new sugya within Tanya B'siyat Dishmai tomorrow. Shkoyach.